Everybody to our 36th awards banquet. You know, it causes me to think a little bit too. This is like I think my 26th year of awards banquets, and I reflect a little bit about the history of awards and how it came to be and how our organization started them. And a lot of times when I was sitting in those chairs, there's not only the daily sacrifice that the families go through to support someone involved in police, but it's also the daily interactions that our employees have with citizens. They really impact citizens daily, their families daily. But a lot of the work goes unnoticed, and some of the work equals or even exceeds what we'll hear tonight. But that's about how we build trust, and that's an important part of our work. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for supporting your families in this type of service. Moving on, we do have, I want to acknowledge this, we do have what I feel is the best employees in police work. We've always been on the cutting edge, there's no question. I've seen it many times over. We put a lot of pressure on our employees, and the families probably feel it. We always want to be on the cutting edge. We want to lead this profession into the next steps. And what that does, it impacts not only our employees, our families, and we're trying to improve the service because the society now demands it, and it's a special time to be involved in this type of work. We didn't get the easy time to be in this work, but you're going to see through your work tonight, the work that's represented in these awards, you're doing an exceptional job, and you should be very proud of it. It should be stated, this work counts. It really counts. We're the face of government. What we do is special. We've done it through a pandemic. We've done it through a lot of social discord in our country. We've done it through a tragic loss of one of our favorite police officers, the nicest police officers ever worked for us. With that, there's been some breakthroughs in what we do. We ask our officers to be, like it says up there, professional, excellent, be a team member. We have a person that we lost last year exemplified every one of those to the highest degree. And that's like the foundation for the work that you see tonight. So remember that when you hear these awards, you are living up to examples like Ed Yax, Lou Stevens, Brian Darrell, the people we lost along the way. And you did it last year through a pandemic and the loss of Ed. With that, I think you can tell through some of our work as police officers that we're pretty humble most of the time, except maybe not in roll call. But once we get out in the field, we're a humble group. And I'm humbled to be your police chief. I appreciate this great honor to lead and be a part of this special time in the history of law enforcement. And we're going to get this awards banquet going. Just remember, some of these awards that will be given out tonight, they symbolize all the work that goes unnoticed also. So with that, thank you for your support. We have some dignitaries in the audience tonight. I'd like to recognize how important that is, too. To have the support, the license to be creative, to do the things that we need to do, during this time of a potential recession, to have a huge project approved Tuesday night for your safety, for a better dispatch center. And it comes through people like that. That's our Board of Trustees. Two of our members are here. Anne-Marie Graham-Hudak, our Township Supervisor, if you would stand up. And our Township Treasurer, Diane Slavens. So if you would, right now, we're going to have the Honor Guard come up and post the colors. Big voice, Mike.
Autograph. Colors.
Please, everyone, stand up. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance right now. If you would put your hand over your hearts, face the flag, please. One.
Pledge allegiance
Two.
Present.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands.
A bow. Half step.
You may have a seat. I'm going to introduce our deacon, Pat Callan. He's going to come up for the invocation. Thank you, Deacon.
I was thinking earlier today about some of the ways that I've started the invocation in the past, and how these last years I've mentioned that we're living in unprecedented times, crazy times. The world seems to be in turmoil, and I keep wondering, maybe next year I won't say that, but I'm saying it again this year, huh? We do live in unusual times. That's an understatement. Our society is divided in so many ways, so many issues, political issues, social issues. There's so many people in our world today that are just angry at each other. We used to be able to have a discussion and a debate, but now it seems when people disagree, they're intent on bringing each other down, and everybody has to point a finger. And all too often, these last years especially, that finger of blame has been pointed at law enforcement. The media is so very quick to criticize. Even some leaders and would-be leaders across the country fault law enforcement and point a finger. And the unfortunate truth is, so many people in our society buy into that and accept it as true because they saw something posted on social media or they heard it on the evening news. Not tonight. Tonight we're going to take a little bit of a different tact. We come together to say thank you, to honor the men and women of this department for all the service that they have done. In the 10 years that I've had the privilege of serving this department, I have seen over and over again so many acts of compassion and kindness. Usually when I'm out, it's because something tragic has happened and people are hurting. And the officers that I've been with just embrace these people and do everything they possibly can to try to make a tragic situation just a little bit more tolerable. And unfortunately, that doesn't make the evening news. It may not make the evening news, but it's what we're about tonight. With that in mind, let's take a moment to pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the gift of this day and for the opportunity to gather together this evening. Help us to be aware and open to your presence among us as we celebrate the achievements of the men and women of this department. We lift up in prayer our families and friends and those in our community who are this day in need. Bless those we have served today. Bless those we will serve tomorrow. We ask you to grant continued success to our efforts, to guide us always, and to help us always to be the best we can be. Help us to remember that responding to the needs of others is the highest calling and the reason we do what we do. Remain with us, O God, now and always, and bless this evening's event. Amen.
Thank you, Deacon. If you would, Detective Jennifer Genoa, come up here. That's perfect. I take great pleasure tonight in presenting the 2021 Officer of the Year to Detective Jennifer Genoa. As service set forth in the following, Jennifer was hired as a patrol officer in 2012. Throughout her 10 years of police service with the Canton Police Department, she participated in several special units, such as Fire Investigation, the Evidence Tech Unit, the Rapid Response Unit, and currently in the Detective Bureau as a detective. Since 2017 as a detective, her overall knowledge and investigative skills have increased immensely. She's a trusted investigator. She consistently performs her job with the highest degree of professionalism. She is never reluctant to take on new cases. She relentlessly investigates every case assigned to her. She's a senior investigator and formally assumed the leadership role within the Detective Bureau that every Detective Bureau has. She voluntarily coaches new detectives and patiently assists others in developing their investigative skills. She's an outstanding asset to the Detective Bureau and as well as the Canton Police Department. She regularly maintains a high number of cases and holds an above average closure rate. She has excellent performance standards, positive attitude, and a commitment to her position, signifying the characteristics worthy of Officer of the Year. Congratulations. We have some stuff for you later.
Okay, thank
All right. All right. Deacon Pat Callan, come back up here, please. Sir. I take pleasure in presenting the 2021 Civilian of the Year Award. Deacon Pat Callan, there is widespread knowledge that law enforcement agencies have high expectations and extraordinary requirements to those who serve as chaplains. There is no exception for that position. Deacon is a member of the Canton Chaplain Unit and is committed to assisting public safety personnel and their family members, victims, and the community in general. Anytime, day or night, Deacon Callan will respond to calls for service. He graciously offers his time, expertise, to assist the department in contacting, consoling family members during the most difficult times. In 2021, we experienced the sudden loss of Officer Ed Yoxt. He immediately reached out to comfort Ed's grieving wife, daughter, and fellow officers. During this time of need, Deacon Callan proved himself to be a faithful leader and a true blessing for our police department. His calming demeanor and peaceful presence were reassuring and greatly appreciated by all who knew and loved Ed Yoxt. Thank you, Deacon. Deputy Chief Craig Wilshere, standing next to me now. I take great pleasure in presenting the 2021 Director's Recognition Award to Deputy Chief Craig Wilshere. As service set forth in the following, Deputy Chief Wilshere joined our police department in 1998. He worked his way through the ranks, becoming Deputy Chief in 2017. Throughout the years, Craig's been involved in almost every aspect of our police department in one way or the other, receiving countless letters of appreciation and praise for his efforts. Since becoming deputy chief in January of 17, Craig's performance has been exceptional, with his leadership being instrumental in taking the Canton Police Department through the most challenging times in their history. Over the past few years, Craig's overseen the department's accreditation program, the Canton Coalition for Inclusive Communities, the Patrol Division, Support Services, and the Investigative Bureau. Under his guidance, the juvenile diversion and embedded social worker programs have recently come into fruition, and even through these necessary endeavors, they were implemented through COVID. These police programs are successful because of Craig's attention to the department's vision of excellence, and he's helped develop and lead some of the most progressive policing improvements in Southeast Michigan. His patience, professionalism, and execution are unrivaled and based on his integrity. An event that exemplifies Craig's daily performance was in a recent investigation and lockdown on the PSEP campus. He was the incident commander. He coordinated the event with over 20 agencies while ensuring the safety of the students and employees. The task of providing a complete and thorough investigation was accompanied quickly and proficiently under his direction. Craig's dedication and professionalism have established the highest standards of expectation for all present and future command officers of the Canton Police Department. Thanks.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Mike Kennedy, can you take a few steps to your right? I take pleasure in presenting the 2021 Director's Recognition Award to Lieutenant Mike Kennedy for service set forth in the following. Lieutenant Mike Kennedy has had many difficult assignments in his 20-plus year career. He has been an evidence technician, an accident investigator, a member of the narcotics interdiction team. As a lieutenant in charge of the Investigative Bureau, Lieutenant Kennedy is often faced with harrowing events, but none hit more home than the loss of Ed Yoxt. I assigned him the overwhelming task of coordinating a police funeral under sudden and extraordinary circumstances. This situation included assisting Ed's family in planning a funeral and coordinating his benefits with his family with urgency. He coordinated this effort with grace, devotion, and a commitment to Ed. So I'm grateful, and our entire department appreciates your work in delivering on such a beautiful event for him.
Thank you.
If we get Officer Melissa Andes, if she's here, Officer Patty Esselink, and Michelle Kuznicki, another officer of ours, up here. I take great pleasure in presenting the 2021 Recognition Award, the Director's Recognition Award this year, for Officer Melissa Andes, Officer Patricia Esselink, and Officer Michelle Kuznicki. In 2021, the Canton Police Department experienced the sudden and tragic loss of Ed Yoxt. His death was traumatic for both his family and the entire community. Upon hearing the devastating news of his passing, Officers Andes, Esselink, and Kuznicki immediately set aside all their responsibilities to assist Ed's wife, Sarah, and his daughter, Allison. Officer Kuznicki, currently she's assigned to our road patrol. She works the same shift with Ed Yoxt at the time of his death. Without hesitation, she visited Sarah, Allison, and spent many hours with them so they were not alone during these difficult times. Her companionship, care, and compassion was amazing for the family in their time of need. Patty, assigned right now as our community policing officer, After his death, she again set aside everything and the agenda of her job to fully commit to the planning and organizing the police funeral. She attended all the meetings at the church, funeral home, helped Sarah. She put together a nice traffic plan, too. All right. We thank you for your work. Okay. Officer Andes, she was on light duty as a school resource officer. She immediately assisted also with the planning. She regularly met with Ed's wife. She assisted with the arrangements. She helped keep everyone together. She assisted as a liaison for the honor guard unit. And she finalized the arrangements also for the service and luncheon. I take great pride in commending these officers for their selfless efforts and actions to help Ed's family. I really appreciate your work. Thank you. Well, we got through that. That was tough. I'm going to have D.C. Wilshere read some awards off.
Good evening, everyone. Can I please have Dylan Hatter come up? Dylan Hatter is the son of Derek Hatter, and he's come in his place to accept his award this evening, so we appreciate that. The Director of Public Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2001 Iron Badge Award to Officer Derek Hatter, as set forth in the following. Derek Hatter spent 25 years serving the community of Dearborn, and we were fortunate enough to have him come to our organization. Derek Hatter was hired by the Canton Police Department in June of 2020, and in 2021, his hard work and commitment to public safety earned him the Canton's first ever Iron Badge Award, which is for answering the most calls for service within a year. During Officer Hatter's first year of service as a patrol officer, he responded to 1,240 calls for service, which was the highest number of police runs in the organization. Time and time again, Officer Hatter has demonstrated his dedication to law enforcement and his commitment to delivering excellent service to those who live, work, and visit the community. The Director of Public Safety takes great pride in commending Officer Derek Hatter in his dedication in upholding the department's highest standard of expectations. We appreciate you sharing your father with us and the great work that he did over the years. So thank you very much. And here's the first ever Iron Badge Award. And here, one thing for you. And there's a pen for you. That's for you for accepting that. So thank you very much for accepting that. Appreciate that. Next, I would like Officer Cale Bell and Officer Jeffrey Seifert. It is a long walk, but thank you for making it. The Director of Public Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Lou Stevens Customer Service Award to Officer Cale Bell and Officer Jeffrey Seifert for services set forth as the following. Awarded for meritorious service to Officer Bell and Officer Seifert, who during the past year received many acknowledgments for customer service by citizens, exemplifying the core values of the organization on a daily basis by delivering the highest level of community and customer service. It is not often that officers receive compliments from the public. However, these officers have received numerous notes, appreciation, and for their professional conduct. They have been described by citizens professional, kind, conscientious, and understanding. The Director of Public Safety Service takes great pride in commending these officers for their dedication to upholding the department's standard expectations of conduct and professionalism. Thank you for all you do in your service. Next, I will bring up Lieutenant Mike Kennedy.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here first, and I want to just take a moment and thank the awards committee for putting this together. I know it's a lot of hard work and a lot goes into that, so thank you for your time on that. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Certificate of Merit Award to the following officers. Officer Alex Aquiline, Officer Jason Barbosa, Detective Eric Kalidas, Officer Jace Pasioco, Officer Scott Porter, and Officer Brian Sostak. Stand up, Scott. That's only a joke that the tallest guy in the room can make to the shortest guy. On February 6, 2021, officers were dispatched to an activated alarm at a liquor store in Canton. The owner advised that he recently closed the store and no one should be inside. Officer Porter was the first to arrive and drove toward the back of the building. Upon reaching the rear of the building, he noticed fresh footprints in the snow. Officer Porter checked the back door and it was unlocked. He then advised dispatch and waited for backup. While waiting for officers, Officer Porter observed a large spill of what appeared to be gasoline. Moments later, a truck drove by to the back of the building and Officer Porter approached the vehicle. He could smell gasoline coming from inside of the truck, so he questioned the driver further. Officer Accommodation was soon to arrive on scene, and as he walked toward the truck, he observed a large quantity of liquor in the back seat. When the remaining officers arrived, they entered the building and observed a small fire in the doorway. The fire was quickly extinguished, and the suspect was taken into custody for questioning. After a lengthy investigation, Detective Kalidas obtained a confession from both the suspect and the store owner. The owner admitted to paying the suspect to start the fire so that he could get out of the business. Nice job, gentlemen. Thank you. Officer Kyle Fight, Officer Peter Passant, and Officer Brian Sostak. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Life Saving Award to Officer Kyle Fight, Officer Peter Passant, and Officer Brian Sostak for services as set forth in the following. On February 6, 2021, dispatch received a 911 call from a female stating that her boyfriend had cut his wrist and locked himself in the bathroom. Officers Fight, Passant, and Sostak arrived at the home, and the caller advised them that her boyfriend was still in the bathroom, refusing to come out. As officers attempted to speak with the male through the bathroom door, they observed a large amount of blood on the floor. The officers immediately grew concerned about the extreme loss of blood and knew they had to make entry as soon as possible. Although the bathroom door was locked and the man was blocking the door from inside, the officers managed to unlock it and push their way in. Once inside, the officers observed multiple lacerations to his wrist, so they quickly grabbed towels and applied pressure to the wounds. The officers' reactions to this situation were crucial in saving the individual's life and keeping him alive until paramedics could arrive and transport him to the hospital. Thank you. Congratulations. Next, Lieutenant Michael Andes, Sergeant David Isle, Officer Alex Aqualine, Officer Jason Barbosa, Detective Eric Kalidas, Officer Jace Pasioco, Officer Scott Porter, Officer Gregory Warnicki, and Public Safety Service Officer Brandy Callan. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Commendation Award for services set forth in the following. On February 7th, 2021, PSSO Cologne received a report of a shooting that had just occurred inside of an apartment building. The reporting person stated that her son was having a birthday party when they heard a loud bang and multiple balloons began bursting. The officers arrived and determined that a bullet entered through the wall from the adjacent apartment. They knocked at the door of the apartment and an adult male answered the door but quickly shut it after seeing police officers. Moments later, a female and two teenagers exited the apartment, and one of the teenagers told officers that his dad fired a gun at him but missed. A protective sweep and consented search of the apartment resulted in officers locating a bullet hole in a kitchen cabinet and a revolver hidden behind a kitchen drawer. A search in Lean indicated that the gun was stolen out of Georgia. Due to the outstanding teamwork by these officers, the suspect was arrested and later admitted to the gun accidentally going off while he was holding it. The suspect was taken into custody and arraigned on 11 counts of felony charges. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congrats. Lieutenant Joseph Biley, Sergeant Andrew Colthurst, and Sergeant Joseph Kymig. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Certificate of Merit Award to Lieutenant Joseph Biley, Sergeant Andrew Colthurst, and Sergeant Joseph Kymig for services set forth in the following. On August 1st, 2021, while off duty, Sergeant Colthurst was putting gas in his vehicle when a male subject approached him to solicit the purchase of a firearm. Sergeant Colthurst immediately contacted the Canton Police Department and reported the incident. Sergeant Kymig arrived at the location and made contact with the male as he was leaving the station. Sergeant Kymig attempted to question him, but the suspect ignored him and continued walking towards his vehicle. Sergeant Kymig advised him several times not to get into his truck, but the suspect appeared to disregard all verbal direction. Sergeant Kymig quickly grew concerned that the suspect was planning to retrieve a gun, so he escalated his commands prior to making a physical attempt to stop the suspect. Lieutenant Biley arrived on scene and heard Sergeant Kymig shouting orders at the suspect, so he immediately radioed for backup and exited his vehicle. With the assistance of Sergeant Colthurst, the suspect was safely restrained and taken into custody. Congratulations. You're up. Congratulations. At this time, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Joe Biley.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Accommodation Award to Sergeant Cody Barnes, Sergeant Adam Falk, Detective Matthew Burt, Detective Jake Krogmeyer, Detective Jacob Crittenton, Detective Jennifer Genoa, Detective George Hall, Detective Jason Singleton, Detective Andrew Tauscher, and Crime Analysis Megan Stevenson. For services set forth in the following, on August 4th, 2021, Canton police officers responded to Maria's Market after a passerby reported seeing the front door shattered. The officers searched the interior of the building and did not locate anyone, but numerous bottles of alcohol, multiple packs of cigarettes, and an unknown amount of cash had been stolen. Detective Gianola was assigned the case and examined the store video surveillance. In the video, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot, and 3 suspects entered the store. Detective Burt drafted a search warrant for cell tower information, and Crime Analysis Stevenson sent out a bulletin to local law enforcement agencies. The Detective Bureau received several reports of multiple agencies experiencing similar incidences involving a black SUV. After reviewing the information, a possible suspect was identified, and the Special Operations Group conducted surveillance and installed a tracker on the SUV. A search warrant of a home in Detroit was later executed, and the suspect was apprehended. Detective Gianola obtained a confession from the suspect, and 3 additional suspects were later identified and charged with breaking and entering. Thank you.
Bring her up.
She's gonna make a break for it.
Sure. Sure, please. Director of Public Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Life Saving Award to Officer Callan McMahon. For services set forth in the following. On December 21st, 2021, dispatch received a report of a suicidal male. The caller stated she was told by another that her uncle threatened to kill himself. Officers were dispatched to the residence, but no one answered the door. Officer McMahon then looked in a window and observed a male sitting on a bed holding a shotgun. Officer McMahon spoke to the male through the window and persuaded him to put the gun down and step outside so officers could speak with him. The male eventually complied and left the gun in the home and exited. The officers could see that he was very upset, so they had a composed conversation with him. During their conversation, the male stated he was planning on taking his life. The officers were able to calm him down and get consent to enter the home and remove a shotgun for safekeeping. Soon after, the male was transported to a local hospital for evaluation and treatment. Thank you. Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Department Citation and Award to Sergeant Joe Keimig, and a 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Lieutenant Michael Kennedy, Sergeant Adam Falk, Officer Jacob Crittenton, Officer Andrew Curry, Officer Alexis DeVetta, Officer Mark Evans, Officer Colin Hanosh, Officer Brandon Hayford, Officer Darren Myers, Officer Brianna O'Connor, Officer Robert Pasick, Officer Jeffrey Seifert, and Officer Brian Zinzer. For services set forth in the following, on August 10th, 2021, a male subject entered Chase Bank and passed a letter to the teller. In the letter, he advised the teller to remain calm and follow his instructions. The letter demanded $2,500 in assorted bills, and the teller was to wait 2 minutes before calling the police. The teller then acted if she were to go into the vault, but instead she called 911. Officers were alerted of the bank robbery in progress and advised that there were customers inside the bank with the suspect. Officer Keimig was first to respond on the scene, and Lieutenant Kennedy and Officer Zinzer arrived shortly after. The officers positioned themselves in a manner that would eliminate any possibility of escaping, and they established a form of communication with bank security. Backup units continued to arrive on scene, and without delay, the officers established a perimeter and closed all bordering roads. Sergeant Keimig remained positioned near the entrance of the bank and negotiated with the suspect over his PA system. The customers and bank employees were gradually permitted to leave, and once all individuals were released, the suspect exited the bank and surrendered. Thank you. What's that? Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Certificate of Merit Award to, I'll let him sit down, Detective Sergeant Adam Falk, Detective Matthew Burt, Detective Evan Culberson, Officer Jace Pasioco, Detective Jason Singleton, and Detective Andrew Tauscher. For services set forth in the following, in November 2021, the Special Operations Group received intelligence information on a male subject who is known for committing thefts of Dodge vehicles. While utilizing numerous social media sites, SOG detectives determined that the suspect was in possession of at least 2 Dodge Chargers. SOG initiated surveillance of several key known addresses for the suspect, were able to place them at an address in Detroit. During surveillance of the location, the suspect was observed driving one of the stolen vehicles to a gas station. After the suspect separated from the vehicle, the detectives began to approach him, but he fled on foot. The detectives were able to approach the suspect and take him into custody. While searching the Detroit residence, the second Dodge Charger was located, and a ProPrad was used for rekeying stolen vehicles was discovered. The suspect was charged with multiple felonies and turned over to the Michigan Department of Corrections for parole violation. Thank you. You're looking good, bud. Let him sit down again. I'm gonna wait till he sits down. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Accommodation Award to Sergeant Adam Falk, Detective Matthew Burt, Detective Evan Culberson, Detective Caitlin LeClaire, Detective Jason Singleton, and Detective Andrew Tauscher. For services set forth in the following, on December 12, 2021, a male subject entered the Home Depot and placed multiple power tools in a shopping cart. As he walked past the cashier, he brandished a knife and threatened a threatening manner and continued to exit the doors without paying for the merchandise. Home Depot investigator filed a report with the Canton Police Department, and the Special Operations Group was provided information on the suspect and his vehicle. It was reported that similar robberies had occurred at several Home Depots and Lowe's stores throughout the metropolitan area. Due to investigative resources and a possible lead, SOG investigation was underway. The detectives initiated electronic surveillance of the suspect, and the Detective Culberson placed a tracker on his vehicle. The suspect was soon traced to a Lowe's store, and Sergeant Falk alerted the store investigators and sent detectives to conduct physical surveillance of the suspect. The investigator watched the suspect as he placed numerous power tools in a shopping cart and then left the store. He notified detectives as the suspect exited the store and advised them that he was carrying a knife. The detectives continued surveillance of the suspect and followed him until he stopped at a nearby gas station. At that point, they boxed in the vehicle and apprehended the suspect. Thank you. Yeah, you stay up. You guys just stay up here.
Stay up here.
I think it's you.
New fitness program.
Yeah, it's you. If I could have Lieutenant Wallace come up.
I guess you guys are on this next award, huh? Just like Lieutenant Kennedy said, I'd like to thank the awards committee for getting this all put together. We had an opportunity, Chief Baugh, to hand out a lot of awards that had to do with the death of Officer Ed Yoxt. And we recognize their great work. But I think we should also take a moment to recognize Chief Baugh for the unwavering leadership that he provided during that. If you guys could take a moment, please recognize him. Also, I see a lot of young faces in here, a lot of people that I've seen at several award ceremonies. And one thing I would like to say is I'd like to challenge all of you that are in attendance that in the future, whether you are receiving an award or you aren't, to show up to the award ceremony. Just a challenge. It means so much if we could grow this even bigger, if we could get the biggest room in the township and do this, that would mean a lot to everybody. So whether you get one or you don't get one, I challenge you to be here no matter what and support everybody. Support these families and support each other just like you do every day. So the Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Certificate of Merit Award to Officer Joel Bellinger, Officer Alex McNulty, and a 2021 Commendation Award to Lieutenant Joseph Biley, Sergeant Cody Barnes, Sergeant Adam Falk, Sergeant Jeremy Quinn, Sergeant Adam Schulman, Sergeant Jeffrey Zajac, Detective Corey Altheim, Officer Cale Bell, Detective Matt Burt, Officer Jacob Crittenden, Detective Evan Culberson, Officer Mark Evans, Officer Kyle Fight, Detective Jennifer Genoa, Detective George Hall, Officer Brandon Hayford, Detective Eric Kalidas, Officer Darren Cossack, Officer Jared Peterson, Officer Jeffrey Seifert, Detective Jason Singleton, Detective Andrew Tauscher, Officer Brian Zinzer, PSSO Lisa Kish. For services set forth in the following. On February 21st of 2021, PSSO Kish received a 911 call from a male stating his mother was unconscious and lying on the floor. While officers were en route to the location, PSSO Kish continued questioning the caller and determined his mother was likely attacked, which she relayed to the officers. Upon arriving at the home, Officer Bellinger and McNulty entered the residence and found a deceased female lying on the floor in a pool of blood. The officers observed multiple stab wounds to her torso, right leg, and neck. They immediately called for a supervisor and detective, and additional patrol units were dispatched. Several officers arrived on scene, secured the residence, and conducted an area canvass of nearby houses. Detectives interviewed the son and were advised that his teenage daughter was supposed to be staying with her grandmother but was not there when he arrived. The officers obtained his daughter's information, executed a search warrant, and established her location via cell phone. During a lengthy investigation with the granddaughter, detectives were able to sift through her fabricated stories and obtain a full confession from her. Congratulations, everyone. Start over here. There we go. There we go. Now we're good.
I think you would know.
Congrats. Oh, here she comes.
Bring him up. Can I get a handshake?
Bring some crayons. Sir, doctor? Joe? Joe, don't go far, Joe. Just before everybody starts getting sit down, Lieutenant Biley, Sergeant Joseph Kymig, Sergeant Jeremy Quinn, Sergeant Jeffrey Zajac, Officer Cale Bell, Officer Jacob Crittenden, Officer Mark Evans, Officer Kyle Fight, Officer Brandon Hayford, Officer Darren Kosick, Officer Jared Peterson, Officer Jeff Seifert, Officer Brian Zinzer, PSSO Hacker, PSSO Kathleen Johnson. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Commendation Award to the following officers here for services as set forth in the following. On May 4, 2021, officers were dispatched to report of an intoxicated male threatening his father with a gun. The father advised officers that his son pointed a shotgun at him and he was concerned his son was suicidal and still had possession of the gun. Under Lieutenant Biley's command, the officers formed an arrest team and attempted to contact the son inside the home. Sergeant Zajac, a detective at the time, arrived on scene to negotiate with the suspect. After several hours and multiple attempts to speak with his son, it was determined that he was no longer inside the home. While searching the area, the suspect was spotted in the woods. As officers attempted to negotiate a surrender, Sergeant Zajac was able to establish a rapport with the son, and he eventually laid down his gun and surrendered. Officers safely apprehended the son, and he was transported to a local hospital for treatment. Congratulations. Thank you. Good job. Good job.
John's great.
Good job. Good job. Good job. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Sergeant Cody Barnes, Sergeant Adam Falk, Detective Matt Burt, Detective Jason Singleton, Detective Andrew Tauscher. In June 2021, the Michigan State Police, along with West Bloomfield Police Department, contacted the Special Operations Group for assistance with surveillance of a stolen vehicle associated with Canton. The agencies were investigating a homicide that occurred in Royal Oak, and they had reason to believe the vehicle was used during the murder. SOG detectives were familiar with the suspect and knew he should have been wearing a tether at the time of the vehicle theft and the homicide. The detectives examined the suspect's tether activity and compared it to the time frame of both incidents. A history search confirmed that the suspect was in both locations during the crimes. A current search of suspect's tether placed him at a location in Detroit, and so a search warrant was obtained and executed at the address. A stolen handgun was discovered, which was later identified as the weapon used in the homicide, and the suspect was taken into custody and turned over to the Michigan State Police. Congratulations, great job. Nice job. Great job. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Sergeant David Isle, Sergeant Jeffrey Zajac, Officer Lua Araj, Officer Joseph Ashley, Officer Nicholas Body, Officer Brett Cheadle, Officer Callan McCammon, Officer Robert Pasick, Officer Morgan Poltoric, Officer Brian Zinzer, PSSO Brandy Cologne, PSSO Hannah Flores, PSSO Melissa Hunt. On September 25th, 2021, Officer Araja McCammon observed a silver Toyota Camry traveling northbound on Belleville Road. The driver was drifting side to side in the left lane before swerving into the right lane without signaling. He continued driving in a careless manner and made a wide right turn onto Michigan Avenue. Officer Araj ran the license plate in the law enforcement information network, which returned stolen. He activated his overhead lights and attempted to initiate a traffic stop, but the driver accelerated and fled. Officer Araj notified dispatch of a vehicle pursuit, and all patrol units were alerted. The suspect turned into a subdivision and began driving recklessly over curbs, on the lawns, and behind houses. He then struck one of the houses, and his vehicle was disabled. The officers had to physically remove the suspect from his vehicle as he appeared to be extremely high and very unsteady. While searching the vehicle, officers discovered several bags of suspected crack cocaine and a crack pipe. The suspect was taken into custody and immediately transported to a local hospital for drug ingestion. Congratulations, good job. Skip this one, none of these guys are here. If I could now introduce Lieutenant Mike Andes.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Unit Commendation Award to the following: Sergeant Joseph Kaimig, Officer Jason Barbosa, Officer Daniel Bergsma, Officer Alexis DeVetta, Officer Brian Halapy, Detective Eric Kalidas, Officer Michelle Kuznicki, Officer Jace Pasioko, Officer Scott Porter, Officer Brian Sostak, and PSSO Nicole Harmon. On October 12, 2021, officers were dispatched to a domestic violence report involving a gun. The victim stated her boyfriend kicked her apartment door in, grabbed her by the hair, and fled the apartment. He then took her car and left the apartment complex. Officers soon discovered that the suspect was wearing a tether, and PSSO Harmon utilized resources to identify his location. A trace of the suspect placed him at another apartment complex within the township. While securing the exit of the other apartment complex, the vehicle with two males attempted to leave. Lieutenant Andes approached the vehicle and identified one of the males as the victim's boyfriend. The suspect was immediately apprehended, and the case was assigned to Detective Kalidas. After interviewing the suspect, Detective Kalidas obtained enough information to draft a search warrant for the apartment. During the search, officers seized a large quantity of assorted drugs and various paraphernalia used to manufacture, cut, and weigh the drugs. 2 guns were also recovered, one of which was reported stolen out of Westland. Congratulations, guys. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Unit Commendation Award to the following: Sergeant Dave Isle, Officer Lua Raj, Officer Joseph Ashley, Officer Brett Cheadle, Officer Jack Foreman, Detective Jennifer Genoa, Officer Hannah Hart, Officer Colin McCammon, Officer Morgan Platoric, Officer Brian Sostak, Canaan Officer Ragnar, PSSO Hannah Chipolowitz, PSSO Brandy Cologne, and PSSO Hannah Flores. On September 22nd, 2021, officers were dispatched to a report of a recent vehicle theft. While searching the area, officers Araj and McCammon observed a black Jeep traveling southbound on Lots Road at a high rate of speed. The officers attempted to conduct a traffic stop on the vehicle, but the driver refused to stop and disregarded a red light at Cherry Hill. Officer Araj notified dispatch, and the PSSOs alerted all units to be on the lookout. Officer Ashley positioned himself at lots in Michigan Ave and requested Sergeant Isle to grant him permission to put down spike strips. The driver ran over the spike strips and turned westbound on Michigan Ave. Officer Hart later spotted the Jeep traveling eastbound on Ford Road and attempted to stop the vehicle. The suspect once again refused to stop and weaved in and out of traffic until he struck a curb and stopped. He then exited the vehicle, fled on foot, into an auto yard. Officer Sostak and Canine Officer Ragnar responded to the location, began tracking through the yard. During the search, Ragnar indicated a hit and attempted to dart underneath one of the SUVs. The officer spotted him underneath the vehicle and ordered him out. Congratulations, guys. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Commendation Award to Sergeant Cody Barnes, Detective Matthew Burt, and Officer Jessica Nutella. On February 24th, 2021, dispatch received a call of a real estate agent who wanted to report a break-in of a vacant home recently put on the market. Officers were dispatched to the location and found the house flooded after someone had attempted to steal the refrigerator without disconnecting the water line. Officer Nutilla responded to the scene, collected evidence, and took photographs. She was able to lift multiple fingerprints, and Detective Burt submitted those fingerprints for development of a suspect. While researching the suspect, Detective Burt determined he was a prime suspect in multiple B&Es and used a stolen express van to transport the appliances. Detective Burt drafted a search warrant to place a tracker on the van, and Sergeant Barnes, a detective at the time, located the van in Detroit and installed the tracker. Detective Burt monitored the van's location and was alerted when the vehicle was traveling to an address in Livonia. Upon searching the address in Realtor.com, Detective Burt discovered that the house was not only for sale but also vacant. The Livonia Police Department was immediately notified, and the detectives went to the location to conduct physical surveillance on the suspect. Once the suspect left the location, the detectives followed him while maintaining continuous contact with Livonia PD. As the suspects approached the area 7 Mile and I-275, Livonia police officers conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle and arrested the suspect. Congratulations. I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Ed Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Certificate of Merit Award to Officer Jacob Crittenden and Officer Derek Hatter for services set forth in the following. On May 3rd, 2021, dispatch received a call from a Canton resident who stated he was standing in front of his house when a male driver stopped and threatened him. The resident followed the suspect's vehicle and advised dispatch that he turned into a gas station at Cherry Hill and Lilly. Officer Hatter arrived at the location and the suspect appeared to be intoxicated. He activated his overhead lights to investigate the threat and keep the suspect off the road, but he ignored Officer Hatter and drove onto Lilly Road. Officer Hatter activated his siren and began a pursuit. Officer Crittenden positioned himself at Lilly and Palmer Roads. The suspect also refused to stop for Officer Crittenden and skidded off the road as he attempted to turn the corner at Palmer. The suspect then exited his vehicle and fled into a wooded area. A foot pursuit ensued and the officers apprehended the suspect in the woods. During a physical search of the suspect, they located a debit card with a different name on it, and a computer search of the name revealed that both the card and the vehicle were stolen. Thanks. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Commendation Award to Detective Jennifer Genoa for the service as set forth in the following. On May 27, 2021, the Detective Bureau received a report of a B&E incident where the suspect threw a brick through a store window and entered the store. Detective Genoa was assigned the case and reviewed the store's surveillance camera. While reviewing the video footage, she noticed that the camera captured the license plate number of the suspect's vehicle. During Detective Gianoa's investigation, she learned that the Plymouth Township Police Department had a male suspect in custody for a similar crime. She emailed the detective in charge of the case and attached a photo of the vehicle caught on camera. The detective confirmed that their suspect was driving the vehicle at the time of his arrest. Detective Genoa interviewed the suspect and obtained a confession for both the B&E in Canton and in Plymouth Township. The suspect also admitted to removing tools from a construction site and stealing a van, which was later retrieved from a wooded area in Canton. Congratulations. I'd now like to introduce Lieutenant Gregory DeGrand.
Lower this a little bit. Thanks everyone for coming tonight, and we are in the home stretch, so hang tight. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting a 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Sergeant Cody Barnes, Sergeant Adam Falk, Detective Matthew Burt, Detective Evan Culberson, Detective Andrew Tauscher. On the morning of June 23rd, 2021, dispatch received multiple reports of stolen vehicle attempts that had occurred throughout the evening. The unknown suspect busted out the rear window of several Dodge Chargers and pulled the wires out from underneath the glove compartments. In one instance, the attempt was successful and a 2018 Dodge Charger was stolen. The Special Operations Group was notified and the detectives used Sirius Guardian to electronically obtain a GPS location of the Charger. Once an address was determined, physical surveillance was initiated, and the stolen vehicle was observed in an open garage with a Pontiac G6 parked behind it. The suspect was inside the stolen vehicle, and several other males were standing outside. One of the males backed the Pontiac G6 into the street so the suspect could back out. As detectives began to approach the vehicles, the suspect fishtailed out of the driveway and sped off, striking the Pontiac as he fled. An updated GPS location was provided, and the 2018 Charger was discovered unoccupied in a wooded area. While waiting for a tow truck to arrive, the suspect was spotted on a bicycle, and he was quickly apprehended. The suspect immediately confessed to stealing the vehicle and fleeing the police. Well done. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah, you guys can. Two of you can stay. Evan, sit down. Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Sergeant Cody Barnes, Sergeant Adam Falk, Officer Jason Barbosa, Detective Matthew Burt, Detective Jennifer Gianola, Detective Jason Singleton, and Detective Andrew Tauscher. On August 20th, 2021, officers were dispatched to an apartment complex for a home invasion in progress. As officers checked the building, they noticed a busted door frame on one of the apartments. The door appeared to be kicked in, and the apartment was completely ransacked. The residents were not home at the time, but they later advised officers that $1,000 in cash and other items were missing. Officer Barbosa was able to obtain video surveillance footage that captured the suspect entering and leaving the apartment building. While reviewing the footage, Officer Barbosa observed a green flashing light on the suspect's ankle and determined it was a tether. Sergeant Barnes, a detective at the time, contacted Wayne County and inquired if anyone with a tether was in the area of the home invasion. After obtaining the identity of a possible suspect, the information was forwarded to Detective Gianola, and she secured a search warrant for the suspect's residence. The search warrant was executed with positive results, and the suspect was taken into custody and charged with within 72 hours of committing the crime. Well done. can all sit down. The Director of Police Services takes pleasure in presenting the 2021 Unit Commendation Award to Officer Joseph Ashley, Detective Evan Culberson, Officer Mark Evans, Officer Hannah Hart, Officer Carly Wozleski. On October 4th, 2021, dispatch received a call from a local business owner who was concerned about a surveillance camera going off and then seeing two suspicious males in his parking lot. Officers arrived at the location and observed a pickup truck backed into a parking space between two vehicles. The truck was running, and a male was sitting in the driver's seat. Another male was standing next to the truck, but he ran off when the police arrived. Officer Ashley quickly pulled in front of the truck and blocked it in with his patrol car. The driver attempted to put his truck in reverse and back out, but his tires were unable to get over the curb, so he exited the truck and fled. A foot pursuit ensued, and the suspect eventually surrendered and was taken into custody without incident. Officers searched the truck and located 3 sawzalls, several blades, and a catalytic converter, which was removed just prior to their arrival. A cell phone was also discovered, which led officers to the arrest of a second suspect who had run off. Congratulations. Well done.
You can stay if you want.
I thought I was going to introduce.
He's going to introduce me now, so I'm back. All right, right now we need to move into another part of the awards banquet. This is where I bring up Pastor Eisen to pay tribute to the fallen officers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a little different. I'm going to do this again. Good evening, everyone. Hey, there we go. Talk back to me. First of all, I'd like to honor the command staff of the Canton Police Department, our chief, our deputy chief, and all of these officers you see sitting up here. They all deserve a hand of applause. Now, I have the responsibility to recognize the fallen officers, the men who have given their life in service. Now, this evening, if you would indulge me, because I'm actually going to do 2 prayers. But first of all, let me call the names of the fallen officers. And when I get to the last name, we'll have a moment of silence. Then I will pray. Then I'm going to have another prayer. And I'll explain the 2 prayers. But we want to recognize the Chief of Police, Fred Passavet. We want to recognize Corporal Darrell Cross Jr., Sergeant Ryan Proxmire, Correction Deputy Kevin Kokenis, Deputy Sheriff Daryl Henderson, Deputy Sheriff David Cook, and Corporal John Wojciechowski. And our first prayer this evening is a prayer for the fallen officers. Lord of all, you came to earth to show us what true love looks like. You taught us that love was about sacrifice, virtue, and service. You taught us that love means to lay down your life for one another. For fallen officers everywhere, we thank you for their selfless example of courage and valor. We ask that you bless and keep the families and friends of these fallen officers. Wipe every tear from their eyes. Lord, help them to heal and to move forward in a way that honors his memory. Amen. The next prayer, and even though in this prayer I just prayed, we talked about the family, but this next prayer is for the families that have to carry on with a void, that have to carry on with an absence, that have to pick up the broken pieces of a shattered life. For the officers and the friends that have to pick up the pieces and pick up the void of a shattered life. Heavenly Father, bless and keep the family and friends of fallen police officers. Though the officers made an ultimate sacrifice in their line of duty, their spouses, children, friends, co-workers are also making an enormous and continuing sacrifice in living on this earth without their loved one or friend. Oh Lord, help us to rally around these spouses, around these friends, these officers as a community. Help us to raise their children as if they were our children. It takes a village. Lord, bring us around the family of a fallen officer to be that village for him or her family. Give us the means to uplift them, bear their burdens, as you taught us to do in your testament. Amen.
I'd like to thank everyone tonight for coming out. You know, we started off with my reflection upon the service years that I have here and what I thought about, you know, some of the things that go unspoken, but we had many, many awards of great police work. We still do great police work. We do it probably more often than I ever heard. You hear the depth of some of these investigations. The people we're dealing with seem to be armed more often than we've ever experienced before. And we're able to do it in a safe manner. We do it in a measured manner, but we're not afraid. We have great leadership. 6 lieutenants to my left are a part of some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. Our deputy chief and I are very fortunate. And you officers are too, because we get to be the real police, and we get to be out front to create the change that everyone else will follow. So I thank everyone for being here. At this point, I'd also like to thank, you know, both our chaplains, Pat and Darnell. The awards committee, it's a lot of work. They do a lot of work. There's a lot of meetings. There's a lot of just organization that goes into this. Reminders to the chief to do what he's supposed to do constantly. And I'd like to thank Rose's Restaurant for providing the food tonight, and everyone just their sacrifice to come out in May. We finally got some nice weather. Still got bad baseball, but we still came together, which is very fortunate for all of us. At this time, if Deacon Pat Callan can come up and offer a benediction.
As this evening draws to a close, let's take a moment to thank God for this time to be together and for all the blessings we have received, both in our professional and personal lives. So many days we get so busy that often we don't recognize the simple gifts and joys that are all around us. With that in mind, we pray. Most generous God, we thank you for this evening and for the gifts of family and friends, of community and colleagues. We thank you for calling us to the service of others and for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of those living and working in this great community. As we have honored the achievements of members of this department, we ask that you fill each of us with the desire to be the best we can be and that you give us the grace and strength to make that possible. We lift in prayer all the needs we hold in our hearts and ask for your blessings on our families and loved ones. Loving God, I ask you to hold all the members of this department close to yourself. Bless their efforts to help others and return them all home safely at the end of each shift. We offer these and all the prayers of our hearts to you, whose mercy has no limit and whose love is never ending. Amen. And may God bless us all.
At this time, as everyone stand, we're going to withdraw the colors with our police honor guard.